Support for TUC in the Closet and the nonprofit Trans Unity Coalition is made by listeners like you. Thank you for your commitment to our mission. Empower the transgender community across America. Whoa. Hello. Welcome to TUC in the Closet, episode 2. Thank you for rejoining, or if this is your first time actually joining in, thank you so much. I believe, to my knowledge, I will restate this just for the record. As far as I know, this is America's only trans-led podcast by a trans-led national nonprofit that is actually filmed on site in a closet. And as one might be able to hear, or if you're checking the video version of this, see, this is very much a closet. Now, how would you hear evidence of this fact if you couldn't see it? Well, probably just the timbres of my vocal tones might make really great allusion to just being a little more unique, a little bit more something's going on there. Not quite a perfect, not quite a perfect, like speaking into the void towards the stars. But also not like you're stuck in a taxi cab. There's a little mix of like, oh, you can hear, I mean, just listen, you can practically hear my throat. And, you know, didn't necessarily mean to make that the disturbing mental picture, but that's just kind of what's getting recorded. You're getting some of those glottal tones, I suppose. So yeah, no, thank you for rejoining. I'm super excited. I have here a little board of sorts. I believe it's called a clip board, and it's something that just kind of take paper and you snap it on, clip it, and then I think that's why it's called a clipboard. And I just wanted to make sure that I had a good pace. Notes from last time, episode one. Thank you for listening to episode 1. And if you haven't, oh, you better. But thank you so much for joining in the experience of basically venting about Reddit to people who might actually still have the honor of using Reddit, unlike some of us. Unfortunately, womp womp. But that's besides the point, and that's not even what this episode's about, because it's a brand new episode. It's like waking up and it's a new day. You put the anguish, the anxiety, and all those negative nasties aside, and we're here right now. We can embrace that together. I think that's great. But so this clipboard, just a couple notes from last time. So these are supposed to be largely within the prevail of an hour or so. I think about 40 minutes probably makes sense, because like there's a number of reasons. One, you get 40 minutes, and you can add like another 20 minutes of advertisements, or we don't really use advertisements, so we do little in between transitional little clips. And it would be really nice to actually pack that with more. I do believe the goal is to have dangoid. I used to be a public affairs host for an actual radio station, and granted it was college radio, but hey, it's still radio. Still got to worry about the FCC. Not here though. But so you always had to fill in certain like portions within an episode. Definitely like top of the hours, all those things. Q signs, and so like my point being that you always want to have little gaps of just like moments, and I can envision there being gaps of moments where we're not gonna have like, oh, here's a Spencer's advertisement, or like, oh, here's some like insert corporation or whatever. It would be nice to have little stories. It could have like little verbal recordings of people who are like, this is my tale, I wanted you to hear it just for 10 seconds. Love you. It could be just something like that, and it'd be really nice, because that gives you a better richness of the quality of your time and what you're doing. That will actually go into a little ramble I wanted to talk about later, which is social media related, but not specifically Reddit, and it is with respect to mental health and time, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I wanted to mainly talk about how last week's episode, I mentioned it was more of like a pilot. It's really more like a functional test case because, again, this is filmed on site in an actual closet, one of my closets. And it's kind of a closet that's a little bit more like dynamic inventory warehousing of mine of sorts for things that I'd sell or package, or even some of our donated goods within the nonprofit for America's lovely trans people that have been gifted to us. But you need space for it, so a lot of stuff goes in and out through here. And to that end, I kind of figured I knew exactly what I was working with here. If I was gonna just put up some, like I got like camera equipment, I got lighting, I got obviously I got something making the sound get rememberified, so the microphones, and I just have a little bit of a kind of like a sound setup, sound studio setup, but just kind of like more ad hoc, which I think is really cool because it really puts a new challenge of like, how would you do this in like in a little hole in the ground of sorts. There is like the temperature, it's not a lot of great airflow, so the video might show beads of sweat accumulate over the minutes, the courses of time, and the temperature just kind of getting warmer and warmer, but that's totally fine. I think that also adds a charm to it, and there actually is plenty of airflow because, believe it or not, this closet, 2 doors, air can go in one side, not the other, so great. Time, I wanted to be a little bit more to the point. Last week was definitely talking about 2 big things. One of them, which I even have right here. You video folks might remember this thing that I was reading of. It's like a 9-page manifesto, or it was really just like the news article written about the drama that our nonprofit has been in with Reddit Incorporated for a while. But, reading it, it turns out it actually is quicker to read it, like, in your mind than it actually is to like read it out loud. Because reading this, it takes about like 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how I'm skimming it or like, really absorbing each phoneme. But reading out loud, I think it took about like 35 minutes or 40 or something. And it was definitely a very, very important story. Those who have that time, please go back and listen to episode 1, where at least the first portion, it's not just me complaining. This is very serious. There very much are a few thousand people who, my phones, I don't know how like their system works, but I keep still getting notifications about users trying to request a post, like their questions about like, oh, I might be non-binary, and like, what does that mean, or like, is it proper to use these like questions like that. I have a kid who's opening up to me and I'm scared for them. What do I do? Those kinds of questions, right? When our accounts got banned, that basically restricted all of these accounts, and because these accounts are restricted, and they were the moderators of multiple subreddits, those subreddits automatically got locked off. So now there's all these voices, questions, requests to posts. I'm, for whatever reason, seeing the notifications. I can see the usernames. If I wanted to really spend a lot of time, I could probably set up like a fake 2nd, 3rd, 5th, or whatever Reddit account now and DM these people to say, I'm so sorry that you're not able to ask your questions, because like, I have been in a position of overseeing a lot of these subreddits for a long time, and they really are genuinely important questions. They're scared parents, they're scared children, they're scared people, or they're people who's like, I don't want to hurt my friend, I just don't know what to call them, or like, I have questions, it's all new to me, etc. And these people are going to have to be forced to go somewhere else, probably a space that isn't as safe or as understanding or as sympathetic. I've seen some people who post in like our spaces, and they also cross post in like spaces that are absolutely like transphobic honeypots, and like the difference in atmosphere is night and day, and it's scary because I don't know where a lot of these people are going now, and I really don't feel comfortable with that. I feel that there is irreparable harm from that, but I could easily see someone who's more of a hater just saying, it's just Reddit, shut up, like, quit complaining. So to those people, I say nothing, because those people aren't worth our time, right? And that are, not just me, but are, because that's inclusive of you, the listener, the audience, and myself too, because we have lives and we have value, and we need to know where to dedicate our time. And that will be a really great segue, except not a segue, but would be a segue to our first topic, which I really want to talk about. How are we using our time, like social media time? I don't think it's all that wise, and it will be very opinionated, like my take on this, but I feel like we could be doing a lot better than social media for some things. Some things, caveat, because last time I did talk about how there are important uses of social media with some examples, and like that's valid too. But I do largely see a lot of people who use it um, more like kind of a quasi addiction, and not really for like the benefits, where really it's just more negative than good. And I really wanna like go to that because I'll get to that. So this episode should honestly be a lot quicker. The video people will notice that in using this board, this clippable, this board's clipboard, we'll notice that I'm kind of looking around a little bit more because, cool, I wish I had a clock last time. I'm poor. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm poor. I'm sorry my bracket of income is not as high as yours. I'm so sorry. I don't think that would actually land because I would imagine the average listener is probably around the same income bracket. There are dozens of us, dozens of millions, at least in this country. So, but like, I did a couple things with the setup too. So I moved the microphone. I'm actually not comfortable with where it's currently at. I think it will be better. Last week, this microphone, it's unaffiliated, Yeti Nano Blue, sequence order might be off, but like it's a Yeti, it's a Nano, it's a blue, even though it is not blue. But it has two recording settings. It has which are more like the polar coordinates. It has an omnidirectional recording, which just kind of means like equidistance from the microphone, any angle, for the most part, gonna get like nearish, like similarish quality. So it's really great for speaking like in pairs or in a group. You can all kind of gather around the bonfire of microphone and just kind of record. But then I don't prefer that if I'm recording individually, because of the fact that you get a lot of like stuff in the background, like, so like one, echoes come up a little bit more, and then two, you can hear things like if the air conditioning turned on, you could hear the fan. If my partner came home from work, you could hear him singing, since he does that when he gets home from work all the time, and it is cute and it's adorable. It's great. Positive mental health right there. And so I wanted to set up a place where the cardioid function, where that's a different function that it actually has more of like a peak like angle and spot where it records like better there. I need to look up the documentation because I'm sure I'm not actually at that right angle, given that angles are in 3 dimensions at that point. But this should come through a little bit more like directly, as mentioned, the timbers of my throat. But it isn't in an ideal position just for recording, but I just wanted to get that little difference, having like a full second episode of like just hearing this quality, and like getting that as good data to really just kind of like feed down the pipeline and process improvement for this. But another reason I'm not really a big fan of this is because this whiteboard here, which is more of a visual aid. It's kind of blocked here. There will still be post-production overlay, so that'll be fine. You'll still see stuff. You'll still see goofy logos and things. However, it's like you got this going on here, and like with the transparency of like an overlay or a logo, you're still gonna see this kind of stuff. Like visually, it's kind of like whatever. It's a little visually clutter, but again, in a closet, clutter in a closet. No way. Are you kidding me? No, it has to be new, right? So I think the clutter aesthetic is probably going to be perfectly like in alignment with all of this, but really it's about the quality and the experience and the journey and everything that you get out of this, and that's what I want to impart. Because I moved the microphone here, and I actually found a tripod head, which has a little swivel on it, so woohoo, I found that in a different other closet, one that isn't as cool as this one, but it does let me tilt, so I was able to just kind of move the stand in a non-ideal spot, but testing it. But because I was able to mount the microphone to a tripod head, I was able to take the little, like the freestanding microphone stand and actually kind of repurpose it. So now it's actually, the video people see, it's actually a phone that's on the stand now, and now it's got its little cool woohoo. Why? Well, here's why. Because now I can put this right here And I know exactly how much time it is into this thing. It's actually not exactly, but like it's about 14 minutes so far. That tells me gotta hurry up with the intro, and that'll be great. That'll be great. That'll help us because the goal is again like something like 40 minutes to an hour. If it's less, if there's less material for that, totally fine. At least I get to hop on for a minute and say you're wonderful, you're special, you're loved. You don't believe it? Well, I love you. There, now you're loved. And that isn't even made up. I do feel that it's not, um, I want to pick the right words. It's really not too difficult to love someone when you can find the relatability. And as long as you're in a place where you feel that you can say there are qualities about you that you do love, which is kind of like saying, hey, you love yourself, which we all ought to. We all ought to be able to find that. That's important. It's important. We can acknowledge that, yeah, but we have flaws. We might be imperfect, whatever you want to call them, your demons or just like your imperfections. I believe there was a great episode of Courage where you are not perfect, right? But that's fine. And like, that's kind of how you roll. You actually grow stronger with those imperfections. That adds your own timbers of the throat in the attributes of you, if you will. So that all being said, we're going to get started with everything, and I'm so excited. And there's probably going to be a little one of those transitional 1-800 cars for trans people, and so like we're gonna get started with the show after this little jingle or whatever is going to come here, and yeah, we're gonna get rolling. All right, it looks like I think technically it's showing. Oh no. Okay, cool. So this should be fine. And I think we're back. In reality, for me, that was actually just like 20 seconds of touching a couple buttons, kind of breaking up the thing. But so, anywho's, I wanted to talk about. It's just something I've noticed for the longest time, right? So let me try to be. I don't want to be too mean, and I know that we all come from different places and we're all going for different things in our day-to-day, but why are we on social media this much? So what does that mean? We're on social media, and as I mentioned before, like my stand on all this is that like there are important uses to social media. We can find connection, we can find comfort, get news updates. So it's like the social media. I wouldn't say like burn it all. That would be extreme. That would be a little too radical. But like, why are we on social media this much, right? We didn't have these same digital platforms, let's say 100 years ago, right? Of course we didn't. But we just still had ways to connect with people. We still had ways to get information. Was it a lot slower? It was a lot slower. However, maybe it being a lot slower actually meant that there was a degree of selectivity. It was still the radio, it was still a telegram, and like the tools that we did have, like like you're not sending your data packets to the moon, bouncing off and coming back here, right? Which cool, ham radio, you can do that. It's called the moon bounce, really cool stuff. Digression. But so the tools that we did have, we were still able to connect with people. You could still like listen to real-time news, even across the pond, different countries, or get like updates from people. Like when I was a child, we had the telephone. I don't mean like cell phone, I don't mean phone, I mean telephone. And the telephone was cool. It was cool. The only time it wasn't cool was when you had somebody who was like, get off, I'm trying to get on the internet. But like only some people might remember that. Even though I have a good idea, most people understand that. Like people aren't stupid. Like people get with that. Like dial up, right? You dial it up, and then you get the handshake, and the handshake is cool science. But so like the tools that we have now are pretty much like the notification, right? What does that mean? It means in like a split second. If somebody were to say the world's on fire, now you get that. What if they were lying to you? What if they were lying to you with the intent to make you feel like everything was on fire so that you just derail whatever you were doing? We have people that do that. They sometimes have names like Alex Jones or whoever the fuck, and like these people, they profit off of that kind of that chaos and that noise, and I call it mental noise, because why do you need to constantly hear that the world is on fire? wouldn't it be better to hear maybe an acknowledgement of that, but then to say, you freaking out about it isn't going to stop that or change it, at least not right in this moment. So what if we, let you feel relief or peace or something that isn't negative? How about something positive? Like anything, anything positive. Why are we losing that? Why, at least in this country, why are we losing that? Why are we losing the moral anchor to humanity for what? Like selfish wins, like politics, or just like the dumbest of things. And we ought to all be better than that. And but that is a challenge. That is such a societal challenge. But social media isn't helping. And like when I see, I'm 33 now, right? When I see the younger generations as they are growing, and they're getting older, and they're talking back to everyone now. They're telling you what's on their mind, and they're gonna do stuff with that. But like social media is, at least on the negative side, right? It's constant, like the notification itself, like the concept of notification. Do you really need to see that like thing in a split second? Every split second, every other split second. Why not like not have that? And maybe you have a dedicated time. You could even make it a chore. Make social media a chore. Like only between 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. will I doom scroll. Outside of that, I will take out the trash. I'll, cuddle with my pets. I'll play some video games. I'll watch TV. I'll, go to a cafe at 10 p.m. and get like midnight coffee and just see who else is there, because that other person there getting midnight coffee, you're both getting midnight coffee, right? You're probably both super cool people who would be able to say, hey, what you doing here? Have a conversation. It doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, I'm here sipping on my coffee and scrolling because the world's on fire, right? It's, just like, I'm just here. I don't even know why I'm here, but yeah, I'm here. I'm just here in thought and thinking. That's healthy. That's good for people. You got to turn off that noise. Like the notification isn't helping, because then your pants go bzz, and then it's just like, oh, okay, cool. It's on. Oh, somebody just something, and like the something's always the craziest of shit. Like why are those somethings? Why are those things valid? They shouldn't be valid. If it was crucial, right? Like, oh, there's a town a couple over. It's actually on fire, right? That would be really big news. That would be important news. That's a matter of public health, safety, and like so much. Like that is news that like that should definitely be something you get alerted to. But we have things like emergency text alerts, and those can be the instead of like the social media algorithms that are supposed to do that every like minute, or like really try to like fine tune the perfect thing to just get you hooked so that you're just stuck on it. And then your dopamine, your reward system, like on a neurological level, your brain doesn't care if social media exists or if it's good or bad. It's like your brain is a bundle of neurons and like myelinated sheaths and like all this cool like squishy science. And it just does what it does as a machine, as an organ, as like, as a part of you that you really don't have perfect control over, as much as you think my body, my choice. But like it's still like a machine that is subject to, it can be overstimulated. It can hit a point where it's like too much and then shut down mode, and like just like a response mechanism. Like there's things that like really happen in the brain. And the brain, I've sometimes spoken about the brain versus the mind, and like there really isn't a difference, interchangeable terms, but like when I think the brain, it's more the physical lump of a thing you could hold. You probably shouldn't hold anyone's brain. If you're holding somebody's brain, except for your own, because you are actually holding up your brain every single day, except for when you're laying down, and it'll make sense when you actually visualize that. If you're holding someone else's brain, that's probably a bad thing. It's probably a crime. But and that shouldn't be one of those be gay do crimes. That should just be like, no, you probably shouldn't pick someone's brain out of their head and hold it. I could, unless you work in medicine or forensics or something, I really can't imagine. Unless you're like a really cool zombie or something, just a collector of brains. But But so like the brain, right? And then the mind is like, in my opinion, like, or just how I use it, I would say the mind is you, right? You listening to me right now for whatever reason. Maybe it's to josh me. Maybe you're trying to like get the dirt and the juice out to hurt my reputation. Um, try me. That's our first dare of the podcast. No, just kidding. But like, so the person there actually listening to me, the person resonating on whatever level, and that level could be 0, but like, like emotionally picking up on things that are like, oh, that's kind of like my experience, or like that was never my experience, but this is someone else telling me it was her experience, and therefore different perspective. That's the mind doing all that, right? Like that's the consciousness and the subconscious, like all the elements there that it's like putting together like the meaning of it all, making sense of it. And like the brain is the thing that's doing that, but like the mind is more kind of like, blending between the like the physical and kind of that paraphysical of sorts. So the mind and the brain are symbiotically related, but at the same time, like, you really don't have control over them perfectly. You can definitely be conscious about what you do, like with your time, like the information you absorb. Even if it comes to social media, what platforms are you in particular using? I very much am like so opposed to Meta, not just because of the bandwagon against, like the anti-Zuck movement, but it really is just a giant corporation where like these are free platforms. They're free because they're exploiting you for major profits. And why would they care about you, right? They care about their bottom line, which is getting rich. And it's really unfortunate to say that, but I mean, it's not really a sentiment people are too unfamiliar with. That's a lot of bigger corporations, and that would be a digression. Social media is intended to keep you stuck on it because, like they say, if you're not paying for it, you're the product. And like, this is a very big case in point of that too. And just look up anything, Cambridge Analytica, just look up like why insert social media platform here. So like, like just looking these things up, you really do kind of see the patterns there, and then like no one's really surprised once they see more and more of it. But then like the paradox there is, but people are still using it, and I'm baffled by that in a way. And I don't know if that's because there's a lack of alternatives, or kind of similarly if there's a lack of accessibility or an awareness of said alternatives. But like the perspective of somebody being like, oh yeah, there just aren't alternatives. That's possible. And if true, then maybe people just do want to go somewhere else. But it's like, but where? And it isn't just like I go somewhere else, because then it's like, woohoo, I'm alone. Retweet. Nothing. You have to have an actual user base, and that takes time. And like, again, these companies are competitive. And once they see like a little blue sky popping up, like they're gonna either, pretend to be better, or really try to take down that, new sky, blue sky. And that's competition. But it's still just surprising me. I don't see enough people talking about like, it's not a constant. To me, it should be like life or death. Like every day should be, what is the next platform? I'm done with these. But I don't see that. In like 2024, I honestly thought there was going to be a big move from like, like just in the queer communities alone, like these major social media platforms saying that like, yeah, we don't consider bashing on your community hate anymore. It's perfectly fine because freedom of speech and discourse, right? Instead of, the inherent obligation to do better for people, because those are the people who are, who are padding your bottom line and paying all of your bills and more. And to what end? Just to like deprive them of good mental health and then just say, I don't care? That's beyond selfish. Like, if there are devils, these are the devils, right? And so it's just like, it's insane. And I thought that was just going to be a major wake-up call, but I guess it wasn't. And to be fair, it's like I really don't know where my expectations should be on that. It's not like it's not like I really have a say in what people do, but it's just like, where was that mass movement? That was the perfect time for that. Um, and but so we do still use social media that we do, and to that end, I also really don't let. There's certain things like I've never been very cultured. I've never been one that really like gets it in the sense of like, um, just like what's being talked about and the gossip and things. It's not that I don't understand it. I just kind of don't care. Um, I don't know. Maybe I was raised a lot more secluded, so I think in that to that end, a lot of my interests, the early formations of like what I like doing, like what I like spending my time, browsing or participating in, they were just more offline. I think I think that just builds, the brain and the mind in a way that might be different from if you've had a phone since you were like 10, right? And notice there, not telephone, but phone. And yeah, like, what does that do? I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, neurologist, or human developmentologist. I'm just me. But I can always have theory. I can always put my IQ points, which I lose at least one a month, but I can always, dedicate those to some guesses on how things might be, as they are. And so the social media that we do have, if the corporations themselves aren't going to put in the safeguards to make not the user experience, but the actual impact to one's health, and that includes both like mental health, but even just physical health too, right? Like sitting, like slouching, laying in a bed and not getting up or moving around. Um, can't even imagine holding your phone above your head where it's like gonna fall on your face, but your wrists, your forearms, and like all those muscles are so perfectly like adapted to it where you're not dropping that phone at all. You did that once and you learned don't. But it's like, is that really the best posture? So there's like the physical health too, but I'm probably gonna talk more about the mental health because I see a lot of people. I hear too many people who reach out. We have a hotline. It's a phone number. It's on our website. People can call. It largely goes to me for the most part. Sometimes it goes to another team member, but largely to me. I hear these stories from people of all ages, older in age, younger in age, people who are from a variety of cultures and households and families, ancestries, and there's so much story there that I cannot share because like these are confidential conversations. I can't just do that. That would be so much of a betrayal. But what I can do is talk about like the collection of it all, like the general takes and like the general sentiments and feelings. And when it comes to social media, it 100% is not beneficial to the more at risk and adverse people. More at risk and vulnerable people that reach out because they're scared, alone, and probably reaching out because they had no one else to. And that sadly even includes other bigger nonprofits who, for whatever the reason, those communications just failed that person. And they reach out, and probably it's just a good thing that there was an extra bridge somewhere because some of these calls are tragic, depressing, and when it comes to the social media side, it's not helping. It's just more of that noise. It's people who they're already done with it all, and then they get that, bzz, and it's like, hey, no one cares about you. Like, how is that ever objectively good? And like, like the tones in my throat, you can hear like just like being so like beyond done with that, and it's like just the frustration. These companies should be, they have an obligation, right? That it's not even just like a simple responsibility or something that's like it's just like some kind of productivity task. It's your fucking responsibility. Do it, but they won't. And so we need to inform ourselves. We need to teach each other what are good social media use manners. How can you be good for yourself in using these things? And like I think the biggest thing is just turn your phone off. Like after this episode, of course. Please, 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 and thank you. But like, turn it off. Like, it's not even just like a try it. It's more like, how about it's a commandment? How about it's like the 11th commandment or something? It's like number 11, turn off your social media communications for a day or something. If it's crucial that you need it, then please, like, that would be unrealistic. Say no, just turn it off. Like, if you need it, you need it. Like, and there's a number of reasons one might need it, and you might need to check it. Maybe just someone you like check in on. Maybe there really are important news and things that you do follow. And maybe you actually oversee a space and you're being dutiful to it. So like, there's a lot of, like, I get that. But in lieu of that, and I'm not convinced in most cases for most people that they don't qualify in lieu of that category, because I think most social media use is very passive and very much just kind of like more stuck to it. And so in lieu of those mentioned items, just turn the phone off, like lock it, or no, don't even lock it. It's a commandment, right? I get to tell you what to do here. Turn the phone off. Hold that button. You see that thing? Turn off. Slide it. Turn off. Your phone's gonna flash a couple times. You're gonna panic because, like, I've never seen that before. It's because you've never turned your phone off before. I guarantee you, someone listening, in fact, I'm sure a lot of people listening, have never actually turned the phone off, like all the way off, like shut down. I feel like it's usually, might die, or it might just kind of go to sleep, might get locked. Have you ever turned it off just to kind of not have to see those notifications and not always get that bzzz? Or like, cause I like, try it, turn it off, put it in the freezer, ask a friend or someone that you know and trust, hold this for a day. I don't trust myself with it. Take it for a day. Maybe even just like, look through your apps. Which of those don't you need? You can reinstall them. We even live in a day and age now where if you delete the app, it won't delete the data. So you can remove the app, and then you won't get the bzzz, every 10 seconds. But, like, if you want to come back to it because you're just doing this as a trial run, as a practice, it's like a good show of faith to yourself that, like, I proved Bree wrong, and I just, did this as a little attempt. You can just reinstall those apps again after, but, try it. Like, see, like, you get 3 hours back in that evening. Like, what are you going to do with that? The world is your oyster at that point. But it's really more like, how do you feel? Like, the mental sigh of relief where, you're not getting the doom scrolling all the time. That affects a lot. Your cortisol levels, your stress levels, even like your cycle of like, well, I'm expecting doom. I can feel it in my chest, but my hand isn't really, the hand-eye coordination, I'm not really getting that. So where is the anxiety coming from? And I feel like anxiety being something, the problem with anxiety is you can't really, like, we made a really good metaphor, I think, in mental health spaces about mental spoons, right? Where it's like, when you're telling someone, like, I just can't, like, I'm done. Like, I've hit my limit, I can no longer. But then you have people saying, like, what are you talking about? Just, why not? Right? And they might not get it. And the spoons becomes a great analogy because, well, you can say, I have 10 spoons every day. I now have 9 spoons because I just used one up doing this, or, like, whatever it is. I got out of bed. That was 4 spoons because my spoons right now are not the same as they might have been before. But so that was 4 spoons, and then I have 6 more spoons. Once I'm out of those 6 spoons, I'm done. I'm going home, heading back inside, or shutting down, and whatever, like, one's capacity is for that. And it's valid to have, like, relatively lower capacity because we all come from different places. We all have different different things that might be holding us down, or that, like just everyone functions differently, and that's fine. But for, like, taking that same analogy of, like, spoons, and looking at, like, anxiety, right? Anxiety is something that, like, you can't say I have, like, 10 anxiety spoons. It doesn't really land in the same way. And there might be better discussion at this, I'm sure, for, like, framing anxiety. But anxiety is something that very much is a physiological response. It isn't just like, oh, I'm worried about something. But it bleeds into your actual body, like the hormones in your body, and, like, cortisol levels, adrenaline. And, like you age, I don't have a study on me right now. I just know that they're out there, and I'm just gonna, be like a Reddit troll and just saying like, studies. Yeah, of course, there's studies. I win. But like, I've seen allusions to studies. Let's frame it like that. Allusions to studies where, um, anxiety, um, long-term anxiety, chronic anxiety shortens lifespans. And thinking about it, like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds like that would make sense. But like, why is that? It's because like your body's getting attacked by something, but that something is like it's not necessarily the ideas in your mind. It's the physiological wear down of just like long-term cortisol, like getting like panicked by things, elevated heart rate, blood pressure changes. Those are things that like very like lots of things in life will stimulate that, right? Like maybe you live somewhere and then you hear like something slam and someone slams the door and like that'll spook you and like that happen like then that's those are kind of like the normal stimuli where things happen, your environment, sounds, lights, etc. But when it's like your cell phone, when that becomes whoa panic mode because just like something's going on, some headline, it's like, oh, what now? um I feel that like anxiety is something that comes from within, and we need like it's healthy to be able to have space and time to introspectively explore what triggers or induces or seems highly associated to anxiety for me. That requires space and time to do that, which you can't have if you're constantly getting notifications. But the reason I mention anxiety is because when you have anxiety, you've had it, it's building up, it's new for you, whatever. When you have anxiety, and then you also have like a relatively more tangible pop up on your phone that says, leader of your country just verbally attacked leader of other country, right? Well, now the anxiety that you have is totally unrelated to that headline or story. It feels like there's a hook there. It feels like you can say, oh, that's the problem. It isn't that I have like, like trauma or things that trigger anxiety for me that I should really try to remedy or navigate. But it's this headline instead. Therefore, like like you can dissociate something that you shouldn't dissociate. Like it's not like you're projecting real internal worries, things that will eat away at you, and now you can kind of scapegoat that onto like, oh, it's just Reddit, or oh, it's just TikTok, or like whatever. But that doesn't actually fix anything, especially not when like you're just going to keep coming back to that social media as a platform, and you're going to get more anxiety. And like I feel like there's definitely like a like some kind of like just together, like having those two like really dark energies, like just like constant alerts, the constant like buzzing where it's like it's gonna like grab your attention, it's gonna distract you. Never mind if you're already like somewhere on like some degree of neurodivergent where you're more susceptible to like, oh yeah, like I just got a vibration in my pocket. I mentally cannot picture myself not checking it. It hurts to not check it. Therefore, I must check it, and I checked it. Or like so, like whatever like is that hook. That like these corporations have been able to really like really a lot of money, a lot of data, a lot of research, figure out that and hack into that, right? I feel like it just kind of paywalls your own capability to confront, confront PTSD, confront trauma, confront really just anything that's like mentally anguishing, because it feels like, oh, maybe it's not something that I'm repressing or bearing. Maybe it's just this little notification on my phone. And that feels sufficient for me to say, like, wow, okay, that was bad news. But I feel like that just kind of serves as a distraction from your own health. And if your own mental health is in any way compromised, then you're not going to be in tip-top shape and at your full strength to take on the world, to take on these bigger social issues, to really fight these challenges. You will be just a little slightly more compromised. And that little, who knows, 4% tilting the scales, that could be it from like winning versus losing. And I feel that like we need to really find the time, and I think it should be sooner than later, to really acknowledge that maybe it's time I go off the grid or put these things away for a while and really ask the questions of like, how valuable is this to me? How important is this? Do I actually crucially and critically need to be checking these things? And in just putting the phone down for a while, like I would say a really good challenge for people, go a week without social media. Like, I'm not saying, like burn all your electronics, but like we know what social media is, right? That website you go to, that app that you use, even some other like means, but like turn that off and just like really try to see like maybe in your head now, maybe there's noise. Maybe it's like, oh, the silence is too loud, right? Which kind of sounds like, oxymoronish, but like maybe it's like that silence is deafening, just like you need something. Well, then fill it with something beautiful, something positive. I mean, like maybe there's a TV show that you wanted to watch and you just haven't found the time to do that. Go binge it. Go watch TV. Maybe, something you want to do is step outside. Do you have a patio? Go step on your patio. Have you ever like, just like taking your shoes and socks off and walked in the grass and feel that in your toes? It's very, very kinesthetic, very like very haptic sensations. Explore that. Explore what that feels like to you. Maybe it's like, all right, that's cool, whatever, and not worth it. That's fine, but you learned something, right? You learned you're not a toes in the grass person, and you didn't get a billion notifications making you feel at your worst. And I think that is probably just a good place to call it for. Try it. Try to turn off the phone. And it can be a beautiful thing, because when you turn off the phone, you turn on your mind. So just please try it. Thank you so much. Whoa, look at that. My backup microphone is that flashing, and that is the battery charge of near zero, which means it will die. Fortunately, though, unlike last time, I didn't repeat my same blunder of not using the main microphone's recording feature, which means I didn't record that, and there was some like quality changes where the microphone was going like this and this and this and like that, and then so like this time it might be a reversal. It might be an Uno reverse card where the lavalier mic dies, but as long as I have the main microphone recording, I don't need it. I don't actually need it. Guess what? I don't need it. You get the ASMR version of my voice. So that means you get to I guess just get, some unrelated bit about like the microphone still recording, I guess. And why is that important? You guessed it, TUC dates. So what is going on in the near future? I don't actually know the best way to format these TUC dates, because I realize now I have a lot more verbal speaking time, which would be pretty cool. The biggest thing I do want to mention is that Tuesday, June 30th, the last day of Pride Month of this year, of the great 2026, our team, myself, and even some other attendees who are really excited to learn, we will be in DC. Which part of DC? That part of DC. Capitol Hill, Congress, specifically more the House buildings, because the Senate isn't in session next week, but the House is. And do we have a full packed day of back-to-back congressional meetings? Meetings doing what? Well, it depends. Do I have my C3 hat on or my C4 hat on? I guess we'll never know. Or I should say the IRS will never know, but they probably will, because I imagine that most nonprofits that grow to the pace that we are probably get audited at least within the first 10 years, probably not the first 3, but probably the first 10. So, just which hat am I? I don't know. There's a lot of hats in this closet. So maybe I'm wearing my C7 hat. Did you know there was a 501c7? Well, that is a thing. So, point being that for TUC dates, I think that the biggest thing to mention is that we will be in DC. And please, if you would like to participate, I know you can't just be in DC, right? Like, where do you live? Probably not directly in the DMV area, which DMV does not just mean Department of Motor Vehicles, which if you're in a state where you don't have a DMV and you have an SOS, crazy. But going back to DMV also means DC, Maryland, Virginia, because that whole area is in the DMV area. A lot of cool people. Shout out to a lot of cool people. You're all cool. So we're going to be back there on Tuesday, and, come catch come catch us, say hi. We're cool. We usually don't bite. But so in addition to that, there's a couple things that we're planning for in July, but I don't really have I don't have the ability to perfectly say 100%, but there are some cool plans that I feel people will be excited about. More virtual, so that means that more people can participate. And where do we have our virtual activities? Well, we do have a Discord server. It's a bigger one. And then yeah, now I even got the video going again, and we're back. Awesome, cool. What was I talking about? Everything, right? So I think going back to digital spaces, we have a Discord, and there's a lot of really cool people there. Feel free to join it, or don't. You don't have to, no pressure. But a lot of cool conversation. And there's also a really good interface that we actually use to both talk about like our volunteer stuff, our other resources. And that's probably the best place to actually go if it's like, what is Trans Unity Coalition? Why don't they use the? But and stuff like that. So probably the place to go do is right there for everything. But so in addition to those mentioned event types, and I guess just kind of like the whole what are we about of sorts, I would say that yeah, more to come in other episodes, especially because in future episodes and in future segments I can talk more about the different services that we offer, different program needs that we have. And I did want to kind of wrap this up at least with a couple shout outs, because I do want to send love and appreciation to people that have been supporting our nonprofit for a long time now. And I would say that I really want to get a good list of who is both comfortable with us saying thank you, but there are a lot of amazing people, not even people who I've even met myself, just people who have either donated to our nonprofit as a cause or have sent us materials and goods to forward to people requesting them, like through our mutual aid. And there's been such a beautiful like dynamic result of like this nonprofit as a conceived, like our mission being we empower the transgender community across America. That's a bold statement. America's big enough. And how do you do that? Well, you slowly build, you build a name, you build a history of actions and the results of that mission. And people either align with that, maybe they don't, maybe they're kind of still unsure or skeptical, but you build and you continue building, and then you build together. And that's a big part of why I feel that people have been reaching out. They've been asking, how do I help here? And I think that together we can all make positive change. And that's really kind of the crux of it all. That if you really want to see better in the world, then you begin to achieve that by showing how you're better, and in acknowledging that there's still a lot that we can all do to continue growing. You don't let that hold you back from saying, but there's something I can do now. And that's something that I feel has been a beautiful unifying core value of those who say, they email us, they call us, they tag us on social media, which hashtag social media again, and they just, it's the best in people, and it's humbling, it's inspiring, and thank you all for being who you are. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Don't stop being you. Don't stop being so beautifully, chaotically queer, or just so uniquely you, because you're the only you the world will have. And we need more of that and not less of that, right? So continue being yourself and show them exactly what you got. And that will close out our second episode of Tuck in the Closet. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of, I suppose that the next episode will come out sometime in the first week of July. So I'll see you then. Hasta luego.